Last week we wrote about a golfer who came to see us wanting help with his swing. He developed a slide, moving towards the golf ball during the downswing. He'd gotten some lessons and it improved slightly, but through the middle 9 holes it kept showing up. His friends had worked with us on his shoulder and he told them to come see us. When someone is dealing with a slide, there are 4 things that I start thinking about. How is their hip mobility? How is their balance? How well do they separate their lower body from their upper body? And how is their glute strength? I look at a lot more than that, but those are the 4 that we're going to focus on today, and here's why. Hip mobility first. For the golf swing, we need the ability to internally and externally rotate through the hips. The power comes from loading that back hip while it's in internal rotation and then firing dynamically, transferring power from the hips to the torso, through the arms, and then finally through the club and into the ball. So hip mobility matters. And if it's lacking, we're going to make up for it somewhere else. If we don't have that ability to internally rotate on the back leg, that can show up as a sway, moving away from the target, to make up for the motion that back hip doesn't have. And if we're lacking internal rotation on the lead leg, the rotation we need to clear and get the hips through, well, that can show up as a slide, drifting towards the ball, towards the target, instead of rotating around the hip. We look at hip mobility through multiple tests, but this one is the most relatable to the golf swing. And you're going to stand on one leg with the other foot behind you. It's just supporting you, supporting your balance, and then you rotate, bringing the hip back, and pause, and then rotate, bringing the hip forward. And we're looking for about 60 degrees of rotation each way with no pain, no discomfort, and taking note of any tightness along the way. If there's pain during the test, that changes what we're looking at. It's no longer just a mobility screen. It's telling us there's something worth examining clinically, which is exactly the kind of thing that we sort out in the office. Number 2 is balance. There are 3 reasons that balance matters in the golf swing. The first is weight transfer under rotation. During the swing, we're putting force into the ground with the back leg. And then we're transferring it as fast as we can into the front leg. And to do that, we need to be able to put force into the ground, hold it, and if we can't balance on one leg, then we're less likely to be able to transfer that weight efficiently from side to side. Basically a power leak in the swing. Second, fault prevention. If the body can't stabilize over one hip, it stops rotating around that hip and starts moving sideways instead. That sideways motion is exactly what a sway or a slide is, so that balance lets us know what's going on. Third, consistency. The swing happens in about 1.5 seconds, and your body has to know where it is the whole time without looking. That sense is what lets you repeat a swing consistently instead of hitting a slightly different shot every time, something I struggle with. So we want the ability to hold a one-legged stance for about 15 seconds. And here's the key part with the eyes closed. Closing the eyes is what tests that internal sense of where your body is instead of letting your vision do the balancing for you. Third, lower body, upper body separation. We also want to be able to move our upper and lower body independently of each other. And we can look at this one of 3 ways. Standing in golf posture, hands across the chest, and rotating to the spine. Watching to see if I stay stable or sway with the lower back. And look at this seated. Standing tells us whether the upper and lower body can rotate independently. Seated tells us how much rotation the spine actually has once the hips are taken out of the picture. Both are useful, but each one tests one thing at a time. Now, my favorite way to look at this is in a lunge. First, with the knee resting, on the ground and then holding it slightly off the ground. What I like about this version is that it's the first test that asks for two things at once. The hips have to hold the pelvis steady while the upper body rotates above it. And that's what the golf swing actually demands. The backswing is your torso turning over a pelvis. Your hips are actively controlling at the same moment. Hovering that knee is what makes any breakdown visible. With the knee resting on the ground, small control errors can hide it. If you lift it up an inch and that knee becomes a pointer, attached straight to your pelvis. Any drift, drop, or wobble in pelvic control shows up as a knee movement. And how someone does this on this test tells us where it'll work. If the knee sags or shakes, but the rotation stays clean, the hip itself needs more capacity. Really common in golfers who spend most of the day sitting. If the knee holds, but the rotation shrinks or the pelvis starts drifting, the pieces are there individually, but they aren't working together yet. And that's a coordination job, not a strength job. And if there's wobble and balance loss, well, that points back to the balance system. And if one side is clearly different from the other, that maps directly onto the lead or the trail hip, which connects to the specific swing patterns like the slide. Last one is the glute strength and pelvic control. The fourth piece of all of this. And this is where the power comes from, that hip drive. Stronger, faster firing glutes means a more powerful swing. And we need a baseline. And the single leg glute bridge gives us that. It's a 10-second hole, and it's something that's whichever way it goes, whether the hamstring cramps or the hip drops or the position just can't be held for longer than the full 10 seconds, each of those point us towards a different thing to build on, to work on. So, what did we find? Well, here's where it gets interesting, because on paper, this golfer looked pretty good. Hip mobility, had good range, but internal rotation bothered his lower back just a little bit. Balance was strong, glute strength was strong, and separation, he passed the standing test. But it was the lunge. The lunge with rotation was uneven from side to side, with some tightness again in that left glute. And then during the pelvic tilt test, instead of a smooth, controlled motion, there was this ratchety, almost stuttery movement pattern, kind of like that. Okay? And that's the answer to why the slide kept coming back. Even after the lessons, nothing was missing. His mobility, balance, and strength were all there. What his body hadn't built yet was the ability to use them together to control the pelvis smoothly while rotating over that lead hip. His swing wasn't sliding because he lacked a capacity. It was sliding because under the speed of a real swing, moving sideways was still the easier option for his body. And that's exactly the kind of thing that the lunge test catches when everything else passes. And it's why we test the pieces together, not just one at a time. So we built him a plan that calmed down the lower grade irritation in his lower back. We built his hips' ability to rotate under load without his back jumping in to help. We strengthened his glutes to their full range of motion, and we improved the motor control of his lower back so his pelvis could move smoothly instead of that ratcheting motion that I showed you. So here's the thing about everything you just watched. The 4 questions, the test, the reading of what each results mean, the plan built off of it. This is what we do. It's called a TPI physical screen. And it's one component of the assessment that we do. And it's the same process this golfer went through before we even touched a plan. If you've been watching this and thinking about your own golf swing, the miss that keeps showing up, the thing that lessons haven't quite translated, the screen is how we find your version of what we found for him. Head to OptimizeColumbus.com to book, or if you want to learn more. The shorter version of this story is on the blog at OptimizeColumbus.com. Keep working on the things you love, and we'll help you build the body to do them.